Health Plans, your Medicare plans, insurance solutions, and resource agency. We have a variety of plans and products that fit your needs, benefit requirements, and budget, with many low or no-cost premium plans, zero co-pays, and much more. Our licensed benefits advisor's priority is your health and well-being. Call us today and book your no-obligation consultation. 1-929-367-5269.
Hey, 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 it's Dr. Cheryl BryantBruce, MD. You know me, the celebrity doc, and I am here with my show host, Hisham Elamonte, Hurricane H. And you are here on Chatters That Matter. Let's talk about it. We're here to educate you, entertain you, and inform you. And we're here at the holidays. Happy holidays, Merry Christmas. Happy Hanukkah, Kwanzaa's coming. All of that is just a wonderful time of the year. And even if you don't have a holiday that you're plugged into, just celebrate the day. This is, however, a difficult time of the year for a lot of people. And a lot of people are under a lot of stress and a lot of pressure. You know, we've seen this evidenced recently by a string of celebrity deaths. Recently, we lost Stephen Twitch Boss, who was not the co-host. What was his actual position with the Ellen Show? He was
the DJ. I think.
Yeah, he started out as a dancer and DJ for the show, and he really became her sidekick. He was kind of like her show host, kind of like the relationship that you and I have.
Hey.
So they had a very close relationship, and it was a very positive relationship. You know, he was a very positive man. He had a family. His career was soaring, and then boom, we're all mourning his death, and he took his own life. Then maybe 2 weeks back, maybe a couple more than that, we recently thought we lost one of the Jonas Brothers. As it turns out, that one was a celebrity hoax death. And there have been a number of these celebrity hoax deaths. Recently, the gentleman that played in the Game of Thrones, they said that he had died as well, and that also was a hoax. So something's going on in the cosmos right now. We've got people that are anxious and they're depressed and they're self-harming, they're self-destructing. And then we've got other people who seem to think that's kind of funny and it's something to joke about. So things aren't right in Dodge, I would say.
No, I would agree, and it's sad to hear. First of all, any news when someone takes their life, and I mean, ultimately, you mentioned the hoax, you mentioned the real, suicide cases, and you mentioned also people who have like overdoses, right? And I think these three categories right here are just something that we all need more awareness about, and there's a need for help because everybody is going about their life day to day, and unfortunately nobody knows what's going on within you and within your direct circle and immediate life. And people judge and people decide on you. They just have their own perspective, and they see you for what they think you are and how you are and what you are. And no one understands the struggles that someone's going through. As a matter of fact, you mentioned about Twitch as the most recent sad suicide. Again, he was lovely. I've watched his in the movie. I've seen him in action. I mean, he was just vibrant, alive, right? You would never think that someone like him would even consider such a thing. And then you
And he
think
had young children too. He had a wife and young children.
that's right. I
And
mean,
it's the holidays.
and
It's like
well, that's the thing. Like,
uh, uh, a,
people,
a booming career, a beautiful wife, these lovely young children. It's
yeah,
the holidays. It's supposed to be a merry time of the year. And, he's got a great show. What went wrong? What
well,
went wrong? And why couldn't he reach out? I think that is probably one of the biggest things that I want to address. We're talking about mental health, and mental health applies to everybody, but I really would like to kind of focus on celebrities and people who are high profile, people who are affluent, people who have a lot of attention placed on them. They're living under a bubble. So they have a unique set of stressors and a unique set of expectations that burden them. And we see this, and we see it in celebrity meltdowns all of the time now. And that's a fortunate thing. That's a fortunate thing that all of a sudden it has become almost an in vogue thing to do, to melt down and be very public about your pain. And I actually think that as far as trends go, that's a very positive trend, because it means that they're allowing themselves to open up now. They're allowing themselves to be human, because there's this expectation that they're somehow superhuman, and they don't have the same pains and struggles and all of that as all of the rest of us. And I spoke to a celebrity friend. Actually, I speak to him a lot, and he has reiterated this point a number of times. And he always says people just don't understand that celebrities cry too. That's a heavy statement coming from a man.
it's a heavy statement coming from anyone, but you're
Anybody.
right.
Yeah, from anybody.
But it's tough.
If you're in a society where men are conditioned not to cry, you got to be hard.
I know all about that.
Yeah,
It's tough.
yeah. That's a heavy statement, and yet that is the reality. They are carrying all of this pain around, and the culture has been that they've had to keep it all inside. They talk about fake news, and the fake news is the perfect lives, because these are people just like we are.
Well,
And
yes, Doc, and it's funny because I think in the case of Twitch, I mean, there was even a note apparently that he
yes,
left
yes,
behind. Now we don't know the details of that, but even Tyler Perry, he actually did speak up, and
yes.
while he is a superstar and he's great at what he does, but he did say that he had similar struggles in his life, and he was contemplating the similar outcome, but he kind of sustained and made it through, only to realize that what he did was the right thing, and eventually he saw the better part of him excel in life. And I think that's also a positive thing that we can talk about today, sometimes today in the show. But you're right, the idea of being under the spotlight, now more than ever. I mean, if you look a few years back, I mean, yes, you got the regular media, which was simple. Now you have
Yes.
the social media. Now it's even more.
Yes.
You were limited to the professionals that were actually in the business, and
Right.
they put articles and stuff, and that's one
Right.
thing. And then you have the trends of paparazzi, and then now you have the actual social media where everybody is a media person.
Right, right.
Everybody.
We're living in a society that is mean now. I mean, people are mean, and they seem to take certain pleasure in attacking these people and breaking them down and judging them unfairly, really, because they're having expectations of these people that are unrealistic. They're not gods, they're celebrities, they're stars, but basically all they are is people who are doing their jobs. Celebrity doesn't make you a superhuman, a superhero, whether you're an entertainer or an athlete, or, you're a top business mogul. Just because you're in that position and you're very high profile, it doesn't mean that you belong to the people. Your life is still your own.
Well, unfortunately, some people would, like really just, not agree to that statement, because they think because you become, a celebrity, you're a public figure, and because you're such, they have the right to actually, have a discussion and opinion about what you do, where do you do it, who you do it with, whatever the case may be. And therefore they into your business day in, day out, and you have no privacy. You cannot even walk in the street. I mean, you watch the stuff. It's like you have to, have security around you, have, so much, the pressure, just planning. I mean, it's like it's worse than being the president. I mean, at least the president, you expect that, but you're just an entertainer, and I'm not saying just. I mean, that you're doing that. You're not in the politics world, but somehow you become the same, and people have a certain day. If you dress wrong, forget about it. If you look wrong, if you're tired, what's up? It doesn't matter.
The thing is, it is you can't just be tired and look tired and go about your life, because people are going to look at you being tired or looking tired, and they're going to read in things and create lives that aren't really in existence. They're going to have you doing things you didn't do, or being places you didn't even go, or any at any given point in time, we're having a conversation and your face is doing all sorts of things. You may be smiling 1 second, but in the transition of talking, your lips may turn down. And then all of a sudden there's a headline, their marriage is falling apart. She's looking, horribly sad. And it's ridiculous.
Well, some of these folks are gifted to take those shots, it's like taking this discussion and take one piece of the discussion and then highlighting that, and then everybody starts, chiming into that, but not knowing the whole, picture. They're not listening to the whole, and that's really sometimes what's happening, and it's happening a lot more than ever. And
it does. And I mean, it used to be that we expected a certain amount of professionalism from journalism, especially from real live journalistic agencies, as opposed to the rag sheets. We expected a certain level of professionalism. We expected a certain amount of truth in it. And I actually had the experience back in 2005. Oh, wait, no, it wasn't 2005. It was 2009, I guess. It was when Michael Jackson died. And Sanjay Gupta came out immediately after he died to interview me. And then there were a string of interviews after that. And interestingly enough, in those interviews, I got interviewed by some, heavyweight media. And I was also interviewed by Access Hollywood, which people think of Access Hollywood as more of a puff thing, as opposed to like NBC, World News Tonight or something like that. But the irony of it was, of all of the pieces that were done, the Access Hollywood piece was actually the most professional and most objective piece of journalism. And one of the other networks contacted me, and basically what they really wanted was for me to throw Conrad Murray up under the bus. And I could not do that. I refused to do that because I wasn't there. I could render an opinion as to how propofol should have been used and such, but I could not comment on what happened in that last hour of Michael's death. I wasn't there. I didn't see it. So it started out, they contacted me. They wanted to do an interview. And my partner spoke with them and he said, yes, that's fine. We're happy to do the interview. Here are the parameters. Here are the things that she won't talk about. Here are the things that she won't say. Now, initially, they were sending a limo out to get me and, blase, blase, blase. Well, after he ran down what we would not do, then they were like, well, can you catch a cab? So we're like, we don't need a cab. We got a car. So we drove over to the studios to do the interview. And, he again reiterated, these are the parameters that, we're going to abide by. And he was very, very firm with it because he did not, there was a lot of pressure coming at me. And, he didn't want me to be under that pressure. He wanted to regulate it somewhat. And most of the media had been very good about that. But this particular one, they kept trying to ask certain questions. And he would say, no, we're not going to answer that. We're not going to answer that. And so, we went on it with the interview. I answered questions. And then they pressed, they were really trying to get at what they want. And so he shut the interview down. And He says, okay, we've answered as many questions, as we're going to answer. You have enough material to do a show with, and, peace out, we're gone. Well, the show aired, and it was so interesting the way they did it, because what they did was they cut and they spliced it together so that I was saying things I had not said. They changed the questions and then gave the responses. So, when you're watching these things on your television, you have to take it with a grain of salt, because they say, so-and-so said such and such, and it's a big deal. And that person may not have said that, in the context in which it was given at all, may not have even been in the same conversation. And then the next thing you know, people are stoning the person to death because he said, she said, and this is a horrible person, or that person has no talent, or, whatever it is. And you know what your capabilities are, you know what you did, you know what you said, but these people have feelings just like all of the rest of us. And they're on social media just like all of the rest of us. And I remember when Ariana Grande was having her bout with depression, and part of what was taking her there was she was on the media and people were being cruel, and they were saying horrible things about her and just taking pokes and pot shots at her. And she sunk into a really deep funk. And, I kept thinking, Ariana, get off of the social media, just don't read it. But they're drawn to find out, what people are saying. It's part of their business, and they have a need to know. But at the same time, it does, even though you may be able to justify and say, well, that's not what I did, or that's not what I said, they get very personal with the attacks, and they start to second guess themselves. And sometimes, they say sticks and stones may break your bones, but, words can never hurt me, but words can be very, very damaging.
Well, they can.
Especially when, they're taking shots at you about something that may not even have anything to do with the incident. Now, they see fit to talk about, well, you're not really that cute anyway because your eyes are too far apart. And, and then they've got you in the mirror inspecting yourself and, thinking, wow, I'm put together all wrong,
Well, but that is powerful, stuff that you're saying, Doc, because, unfortunately, there are people out there now, and it's a lot easier to do, right? Where if I want to get some credits and get some following and get some numbers, right? It's the same concept in the media, right? If it bleeds, it leads. Well, in this case, if the more, we catch any phrase, anything, any picture, and we start just going, after it, and then,
viral.
And it goes viral, and then everybody chimes in, and next thing you know, it's 1 million hits on this thing, and people are like talking. and they don't even know what the story is. They come from a comment to another, from a comment to the other, and then everybody has an opinion about that second comment. And before you know it, the story has become, literally a snowball effect. And now we have an avalanche, right? And that's exactly right. But now the receiving party, whoever was on the attack mode here, or the receiving piece of it, they basically are, in stress mode, right? And it does impact you. I mean, you're not in a mood, you can't do things. And you're right. If it depends on the personality, if you want to end it, that could be a trigger. It could be a problem. I mean, that's bullying. It's just in a different, it's the same thing as bullying.
It's an extreme level of bullying.
It is.
The problem with that bullying, now, the problem with bullying in general is that the person being bullied usually will not come forth and tell. But particularly when that person is in the media, when that person is in the limelight, there is a pressure to always look good, to not acknowledge the negative. Because if you acknowledge the negative, then there are going to be attacks on that as well. So, you're kind of in a no-win situation when that starts to happen. And they also, they're in a culture where they can't appear weak. So they can't reach out, or they feel like they can't reach out and seek help, because then someone may realize that I'm going for, psychiatric care, I'm speaking to a psychologist, and that I may appear weak. Or if I appear frail, somebody may be moving in to try and take my job, or, whatever it may be. I mean, we saw that with Wendy Williams. Wendy Williams had health issues, and they held her spot for, a little bit. And then it was like, bye, Wendy Williams, And so they cannot appear weak or frail or unpopular. And, Paris Hilton, and I think someone said it before her, but, she said, all press is good press, because it does bring attention. And I think it used to be that way. But now when you get the bad press, it becomes so scathing and so personal. And I mean, there's that real crabs in a bucket mentality. Oh, you're falling, let's pull you down. We're going to eat you alive. You thought you were all that, and you had all of that going on, and I don't have it. So, you need to be down here with me.
It's amazing how we are as humans. I mean, you do not want that being done to you, right? No one wants that. Yet we dish it out to others. And that's the part that I cannot personally comprehend, because whoever is listening, watching right now, none of us wants to actually be in a position where you're being bullied, or you're being when someone is really into your business and stuff. Now, some people say, well, you choose to be in the limelight, you choose to be out there, right? You choose, that's fine, but there's a limit, there's a boundary, there's also, what can be done. First of all, depends what you do. I mean, not everybody is equal in terms of what their celebrity level is. And also in what, if you're an entertainer is one thing, you're in the news one thing. I mean, you're in politics, in business, everybody's different. The angles are different. But the discussion is almost the same, right? It's about like, they don't look good, they don't do this, that, if you have money, it's like, well, where they get the money, blah, blah, blah. If you don't have money, it's like, well, what's going on? They're probably doing a lot of drugs.
Kids right. Exactly. You should be showing us your kids. You shouldn't be showing us your kids.
There's got to be, it's funny, like someone's going to find something wrong. And even if there is, they'll make it up and start a discussion.
And that's the part. They will make it up, and they will create issues around it. And part of that is a part of show business, because a lot of these shows, like we have these housewives shows, and if everybody was having just a normal, ordinary life, it would be a dull show. Actually, most people have enough drama going on that it wouldn't necessarily be a dull show.
I think we all live in a reality show. Everybody has their own reality TV, right?
Yeah. But I mean, because things have changed societally, successfully. And people need that constant stimulation and charge. People aren't looking to watch this show. We're not looking for Leave It to Beaver anymore. People want to see the blood and the gore and the stress and the strife. And maybe somehow it makes us feel better about ourselves. So you have these shows, and the shows actually create drama. I had a friend that was on a major show, was featured on a major show, and was in a very stable marriage, and had a wonderful job and everything else. And by the end of the show, they had split because they kept throwing pieces in, and she was like, what, I'm really getting tired of this making me look bad, and I look like I'm insecure, and I look like I'm possessive, and I look like I'm a whiny brat and everything. And she's like, this doesn't make me feel good. And then now people are throwing rocks at her and saying, oh, she's awful, and she's like, this doesn't make me feel good. And, I want to turn this around. And the show's getting great ratings with this, and people are talking about her. And so the show doesn't want to turn it around, because the show wants ratings. And, I'm sorry if you're feeling bad about it, but, it's just a show.
Entertainment, right? Well,
Exactly.
well, that's the thing. But now you have people that take their life.
Yeah.
And someone could be responsible. I mean, you don't sometimes by default, you're not even sure, you're not even thinking that you had anything to do with it, but you did. And because a comment you made, because of something you did, somebody just decided to end their life. And that is not something. First of all, I don't think anyone watching, listening right now, or anybody in general would want to be, responsible for a death of anyone, and let alone doing it in that such a horrible way, because really that's like, a very nasty way to do it. And unfortunately, sometimes people do have a limit of patience, and the stress takes over, anxiety takes over, depression takes over, and the thoughts begin. And I mean, you and I, like you said earlier, we actually connected through the suicide prevention hotline, and we both were on those shows, and that's how we connected. But this is like a real problem. This is a real thing that is affecting. I think anybody watching, listening, knows someone in their either friends, family.
Statistic here.
Oh, I think it's super high. I mean,
it is definitely super high. And unfortunately, it's also super duper high in my profession.
Well, it is in every aspect of it. I mean, really, it's everywhere. The teenage, that's another group that's being affected the worst. As a matter of fact, 2 months ago, my kids, my children had a friend, that we've known, who actually took his life. And it was the saddest thing that it's close to home, right? I've actually had family members who did that. I actually personally have family members who actually committed suicide. So I can tell you, it is not a good feeling. It's a very difficult place to be, and you can only imagine what these people are going through before they make that judgment call and say, okay, I'm just going to end this, right? And but I think we're talking a lot about the reasoning behind it and stuff. So you got the statistics.
Yeah.
Talk to me.
Yeah, here are some interesting statistics. Suicide is the 12th leading cause of death in the US. And there is a death by suicide every 11.5 minutes.
Wow. That is amazingly
a lot
crazy.
Of deaths. And unfortunately, the 15 to 24-year-old age bracket is a one that's a big hit. So these are, young people who are still in the formative years of their life, but really just beginning their lives, and they check out.
Well, so let's talk about two things, just in that light. One is, you mentioned overdose earlier, right? And let's talk about that, because some people may, take their life instantly and decide to end it one way or the other. Right. But some people do it the other way, which is they basically get into drugs and other things to kind of
Drugs,
suppress
alcohol,
suppress whatever those
risky
challenges,
behaviors.
right? And then the next thing you know, they eventually died through heart attacks or overdoses, right? And but equally, that is still just a lengthier suicide. It's a slower
Right.
suicide, if you want to call it that way. Either way, neither of them is something that we'd like to hear about or see, whether in the celebrity world or just the regular world, right? No one wants to know someone that's gonna do that to themselves, harm themselves to the point where they actually lose their life. And again, that's the difficult part. And religiously speaking, I mean, there's no religion that actually agrees with suicide, right, as a
Right.
way out. And but also no religion will even talk about drugs and stuff, meaning as part of hey, it's a solution. Everybody's against all
Yeah.
these things, yet people still do these things, right? And
Right.
everybody has some sort of belief, right? And unfortunately it happens where people actually are doing these things. And
Mhm.
you talked about celebrities who died, through committed suicide, but there are celebrities, as you mentioned, we talked about Michael Jackson, who that's a different story in terms of how he died, and then we don't know the details yet. I mean, there's still some stuff out there, but Whitney Houston, Anthony Bourdain, was one, who actually committed suicide. I mean, there's so many other, folks. I mean, even Elvis Presley, the king himself, he actually, pretty much was so much drugged up, that eventually it got to him, right? And it
Mhm.
was all the stress, all the pressure. I mean, there's a movie on Netflix that just came out on Elvis. I mean, it's a pretty good, depiction of his life story, and I think that's close enough. I mean, I'm not an expert in his life, but I can tell you, it sounded real, in terms of how the story went. And it's pretty sad. I mean, for someone who had that ambition, and that's the other thing. These folks are all ambitious, just like everybody else wants to achieve things in life. And they have really a vision to where they want to be, but to cut it short that way, right? One way or the other, it is sometimes not really what they wanted. But what does it take, to get them there, right? We talked about some of the pressures, right? And
Right.
that's the biggest part of it, right? Everybody's pressure, not, but people have personal
There's so
problems.
much pressure. There's so much stress now. You know, just your average everyday stress has been compounded so much. And, particularly since we've just gone through the pandemic and it's, of course, ramping up again, people are on edge. A lot of people didn't have good coping in the first place. And now they're just kind of at the limits. So they're pushed.
Well, the pandemic itself, that's another story. I mean, people
Mhm.
really had probably the worst part of, the pandemic was the stress piece of it. And, because people got affected financially, physically, you name it, tragedy, that, everything. So the outcomes were just, bad, and the results. And there are a lot of statistics that are still being just in research mode right now, and studies, right? Because eventually we're not going to know what's the total impact of that pandemic until years to come, because this thing is just going to keep trickling in, and it is affecting
Right.
the mental status. It is affecting, how people are coping with life. And again, sometimes people cannot figure it out. I think that's where
Mm-hmm.
it gets dangerous. When you get to that, point of no return, and you just see darkness, and you don't see an end, and you don't see like any results, no out. That's when you seek the end, right? And you just want to end
Mm-hmm.
it because you don't want to do.
Yeah.
You want to don't you don't know you don't want to deal anymore with this, whatever it is, the challenges that are coming to you. That's the difficult part. And I think what we can do as people, I mean, from this show, and again through the programs that are out there, there is help. I mean, I think folks should always, if you're not sure, if you feel that you're having problems, seek the help. You mentioned something earlier about I guess the stigma of being in reaching out to like psychiatrists and psychology, folks and experts, especially as a celebrity, can be a problem. But now with online, you don't even have to do it physically. You can do this, with nobody knowing that you're actually having
Right.
treatments worldwide. I mean, I have Dr. Haim, I mean, who's from Australia. He's world renowned. He helps people all over the world. I mean, he's doing live, responses to people on the show. You imagine that you could reach out to someone like him, and maybe your life is spared, or you can help someone, save their life. So folks, I mean, the reaching out is important. Reach out to your friends, to your family, someone. Talk to somebody. Don't just let it, burn inside, because it's like a volcano, right? It's like it's gonna erupt somehow, and then it's over.
Right. And, so many people have a hard time reaching out and seeking help when they're in trouble. So I think that it's kind of important for people to establish someone ahead of time that they can reach out and talk to. And, right now, everything's merry. We're in a good mood. The holidays are coming. We're feeling great. These are the times actually when it makes sense to talk to people about, well, if I'm having a tough time, if I'm struggling, can I reach out to you? Or reaching out to someone else and say, if you're having a hard time, Hurricane, if you're struggling, can we make a contract that we're going to call each other and touch in and say, hey, I need to talk. I need some help. If people kind of make those social contracts with each other, it's giving them permission. It's giving yourself permission to broach those subjects and to bridge those gaps and to be vulnerable. Now, you can't be vulnerable with everybody. You have to pick and choose who you're going to be vulnerable with.
Sure.
But I think that it's important as one of our coping skills and one of our resources for stress management to identify somebody that we can turn to if we get into trouble, somebody that we can trust, somebody that we can basically lean on that shoulder, put the burden down for a moment.
Well, doctor, I mean, there are hotlines as well, right?
Yes.
So even if you don't want to talk to your immediate circles or your close friends because you don't want to share your whatever is going on, you have lines where you can call in and no one needs to know who you are. You don't even have to just state your name. There's different things you could do where they can help you in a very good way and listen to you and maybe guide you and assist. So there are solutions.
There are counselors that are available, for people who are spiritual. Every church has a church leader that they can reach out to. If you're in crisis, you can walk into any emergency room anywhere in the country and say, I'm having a hard time. And they will connect you with resources.
Well, doctor, that's interesting that you said that, because everybody thinks emergency room is when you have a kidney stone, for example, or something, or like a broken arm or something, right? Oh, God forbid, an accident. But really, no one thinks about it as a behavioral type of approach, where if you have a mental, emergency, that you can also go in there and they have folks to help and guide you to the right department and even admit if that needed, to protect you, right? And so that's something that we are not conditioned to even know about, right? Because that's not what we've been told, or at least that's not what we know. But you're right. Like at any level, there's someone out there that can help. And it's someone that's willing to listen, and also now that's also that can take us to the discussion of having the right entourage, right? Selected, having a good selected, crowd, because not everybody's got your love in the heart, right? And that's unfortunate. Some people do love you for honestly love you, and some people may be there for other reasons, especially when you're in that level. The money can play.
That's actually a very real thing, because one of the things that I do, I'm a concierge physician, and so I'm a private personal physician, and I'm there for my clients. And one of the things that I hear them saying when they are in these meltdowns, when things aren't going well, one of the stresses they identify is that they don't know who they can trust. They don't know who's there for them and who's there for the money or the fame or the party or, the position, the title, depending on, what your role is, your celebrity, politician, whatever it is. they have a heightened sense of there are people around me who, they slather me with attention and compliments and act like they're about it. And yet my gut sense is that it may not be about me at all. And who can I trust? Who of these people? Because some of these people are even friends and family. And, it's like when it comes to money, it's amazing how families can become very dysfunctional very, very quickly. Um, so I see just tremendous levels of stress in people who are very successful in their fields. And then the other thing to talk about too is one of those stressors that they have, and I mean everybody deals with this, but they deal with it to a heightened level, is the green monster, envy, jealousy. A lot of people around them will be jealous of the success and will maybe be not so supportive, or maybe be putting poison in the Kool-Aid, So they have to worry about all of those extra things. Now, what can they do to kind of mitigate some of this stress? As you said, having that trustworthy entourage, and even within that entourage, you've got a bigger entourage because you've got security and this and that and the other thing. But even if you're a celebrity, you need to have that inner circle.
Yep.
And I remember my grandmother told me, if you have 5 close friends, 5 ride or die folk in a lifetime that no matter what, they've got your back, you've been very successful. Well, for those who are in those high profile, high pressure positions, they need to surround themselves with those ride or dies, so that as the folks are throwing the daggers, they've got, like in the Roman, the gladiators, they used to put up the shields. So they've got to have their ride or dies putting up those shields to keep those darts away.
Well, but you're right. I mean, it is, everybody should have, at least 1 or 2 people in their lives that they know that they can blindly go to and not worry about, anything, because they're going to get their back. Right. But some people may unfortunately not have that, because again, it all depends on how let's say you went to stardom, right? And that's what you were seeking. And again, there's the other part, right? We don't know what that person did in their life before they get there, right? And who they stepped on. I mean, there's that too. Like sometimes you can piss off people, right?
Sure.
People in
people
the
get even.
Yeah, people karma, right? I mean, people do that too. So we're not judging who's what where, but the end of the day, there's that part of the coin that you have to be aware of. So you got to be mindful that if you step on folks on the way up, that's going to be harder on the way down, and they're all going to stampede on you, right? So that's a tough one, and it's going to be hard. If you do good with people, and you are righteous and stuff, and you make it, then keep some of the key folks around that that they got your back when you didn't have money, and they're going to have you back now. So that's the other thing. If they really were there for you without any money, they'll be there for you with the money. And maybe money can change things, but the odds will be probably on your side. But that's just one way to look at it, right? But that's the balance. I mean, again, there's no magic formula here. I mean, everybody has the ability to identify some of those folks. But again, when you start, everybody that's going up right into the ranks, no matter what, at work, in business, in celebrity mode, everybody that is today a celebrity, right? Started somewhere where they were admiring another celebrity. They had a vision and they had a dream, right? And the anthem of the World Cup this year is like, "We are the dreamers," right? Right. So the song, that's a beautiful song, right? So everybody is a dreamer, and you do work towards that dream, and many people do achieve that success. And when they get there, that journey is hard. That's when they get all this influx, and then sometimes it's mismanaged by a lot of different reasons. And then now it takes that toll on you mentally and physically. That the physical part is one thing, but the mental
Yes.
part is, I think personally,
It's
mental
whole
health is
nother really.
worse.
The mental
That
is the worst.
yeah,
Yeah.
mental health can be worse because your
Mental
mind is playing.
leads to the physical. I mean, unless you're hit by a car or someone shoots you or something like that, generally our physical problems come from emotional and mental stress. Dis-ease leads to disease. Dis-ease causes inflammation. Inflammation causes disease. So emotional, mental stress is definitely more significant than physical, because physical usually won't come without the emotional and mental. And that's barring fatigue, because that's another factor that plays in with people who are very, very successful. People who are very successful are usually very driven, and they're putting a lot of time and a lot of energy into whatever they're doing. I mean, you and I were case in point. But at times you can get so fatigued that things that would not normally emotionally or mentally unsettle you, you can more easily be pushed off of the wall.
You're itchy. You're
Yeah,
sensitive.
exactly.
Well, it is true.
Exactly.
Well, I think the biggest part that people don't even realize about, when you're in a business mode or celebrity, specific celebrity. Now we can talk about, artists and actors, right? Specific.
Mhm.
Those folks, I mean, sleep is very scarce with them because first of all, people don't realize this, but a lot of movie is shot, early, early, before sunlight or after
Yeah.
sundown because they want
And
the streets off. Yeah.
people also don't realize how, they see, the red carpets and the fancy clothes and, the cars and the houses and everything, and they're like, oh, that's the life, they've got the easy life. What do they have to complain about? They don't understand that those celebrities, most of us are working an 8-hour, maybe a 12-hour job. A lot of times those celebrities aren't working 8 or 12 hours. They may be working 16 hours or even 20 hours. They put in long days on sets. People who are out touring, musical acts that are out
Yep.
touring,
Yep.
they're taking stuff to take them up and taking stuff to take them down because it's just constant push, and exhaustion is a big risk factor for tours being cut short. We send IV nurses out, with people who are touring, giving them what we call Myers cocktails, their vitamin bags to try and boost them back up. I mean, they're under a lot of strain that most of us aren't having to deal with. And one of the things too about the whole celebrity thing, and people say, well, that's part of the job, and they knew what they were getting into, but usually they don't know what they're getting into. They have a certain image of what that job looks like, but they don't have an understanding really I mean, unless they have a family member that's in it, they really don't have an understanding of what that really looks like. I mean, we all know that they have entourages, they have security. But, when you can't even kiss your wife without somebody looking at you, it becomes uncomfortable. And I mean, I remember the whole thing when Obama first got into office. There was this clashing that was going on between Obama and the Secret Service because they didn't want to let him have his cell phone, and he was like, I want my cell phone. And, there were privacy issues that he wanted that they wouldn't compromise on.
You won't
And
compromise
so,
security.
yeah. So the lifestyle changes in ways that you don't anticipate.
Well, yeah, and again, I mean, that's the president. I mean, POTUS is a whole different level. But for celebrities, right? You know, you're talking about touring folks, right? You know, bands and so on and so forth. They just don't stop every night. They're in a different city, or
Mhm.
every other night they drive in or fly in, and you know, just the toll that you take on planes, pressure up and down, no sleep. You know,
Yeah,
you sleep, sleepless hours, and again, we have sleep cycles, right? If you miss
right,
that, your body is not really in a good mood. You know,
right,
your
right,
food habits are
right.
not there. Your nutrient, I mean, you said
Mhm.
it, you got IV nurses, right, to just give them some boost. But even that has a limit to where it takes you.
To what it
You know,
can do. Yeah.
movies, I mean, you sign up for a contract in a movie for, you know, let's say a couple $1 million, right? You know,
Mhm.
that's a celebrity level, right? You know, I mean, there
Yeah,
are
yeah.
lower
They're going
level,
to
you
get
know.
their money's worth out of you.
Exactly. So you know you're not going to demand, you know, what time you're going to wake up and how you're going to do it. I've seen.
Right.
Listen, I was in a movie set with Denzel Washington. It
Yeah.
was like negative degree. Literally, the weather was
Right.
negative in New York
Right.
City in a movie in the '90s,
Yes.
and he was literally in the trailer. Comes out, you know, in the cold, and
Yes.
he would sit there for a few minutes, just you know, warming up, and then they get in the set. And that scene actually was there for like 3 hours. Once more, it was literally less than 10 seconds in the movie, but it was
Yes.
about a few hours in one scene, right? And
Yes.
he had no choice, and he had to do that, right? And this is Denzel,
Right.
right? And you know,
Right.
and there's we can talk as many as celebrities, you know, as you want.
Yeah. Well, let's talk about Kate Winslet when
Oh, for the
they filmed the
Titanic,
Titanic.
yeah,
You
yeah,
know, that whole scene where they were underneath the bottom of the boat and Leonardo DiCaprio was
holding,
chained
yeah,
to the pole,
yeah.
and you know she was trying to save him and the water was filling up and everything. What people didn't know, I mean, that water was like ice cold because they had to create the effect of you know the steam coming off of their breath and the whole bit. But she actually nearly drowned in that scene because she got caught. I think her dress got caught for something, and so there was a struggle, you know, for her to get out. And these are dangerous scenes that you know people are in, and you know a lot of preparation even goes into those scenes, you know, and we see one scene, one moment, and that scene, that particular scene probably took days,
Right.
absolutely days. And let's
And
talk about, you know, we got a nice new movie out, Wakanda Forever,
yeah.
and you know you know, beautiful Lupita is in it, and we see her in the underwater scene where she goes down to save
Hmm.
Suri,
Yeah.
and she trained for that. You know, she actually posted her training where she's on the bottom of the pool with weights, walking like a crab with these weights. She trained for weeks in order to be able to do that role.
Thank you for bringing that up because that's the other part. A lot of these movies, I mean, John Wick, right? You know, one of my favorite guys, Keanu Reeves, right?
Yes.
You know, he trains months and
Yeah.
months, you know, and
Yeah.
real weapon training. I mean, he's really
Yes.
doing the range. He's doing those stunts because
Right.
a lot of them are him. I mean, Tom
Right.
Cruise, he does his own stunts. I mean, these
Right.
folks really are literally putting blood and
Chadwick
sweat,
Boseman.
exactly, and they're making it, you know, to get there. And you know, people are seeing the end result, right? Beautiful, yeah, but it takes months of training, and people say, well, they were getting paid for it, right? Well, yeah, but that's okay. They're getting paid for it, but it's a lot of work, which takes a toll, which means that now they're not really as healthy as you think, and therefore they are very vulnerable to anything, right?
Yeah.
And if you itch them the wrong way, you know, that's exactly
Exactly.
what happens. Something, you know, happens to in their life. I mean, you hear these things like, what the hell just happened, right? But
Yeah,
there
exactly.
are triggers that are, you know, ahead of the game, right? Before it happens, there are triggers that sometimes you don't see them. And, you know, like
Right.
Robin Williams was, you know, one of the most funny guys, right? You would never
Right.
thought that he's actually going to be in that particular predicament. Yet he made people laugh, you know, and you know everybody looked at him like, you know what, I'm going to have a great time watching him, but
Yeah.
nobody knew the
And he
struggles he was
carried
going
all
through.
of that pain and struggle inside.
Exactly, and that's the part that you know we should be aware of is that you know, folks, everybody around us, you know, should be, you know, beautiful, should be happy, and know that they have struggles. Period and out. We expect them to have, you know, the best life, but understand that no matter what you think, the facade that they give you in behind the scenes, there's so many things going on that they may not share with you physically or publicly, but they're going through their own time, their own, whatever struggles and problems and hurdles and personal matters. And, when you start hitting them and stuff like that, it just makes it worse. And then you could literally be causing, more damage to these people. And
Yeah.
that, and this could
Yeah.
be not even just can be your family members.
Yeah. Oh, yeah. And I mean, even, we've been kind of talking about it in terms of celebrity stress levels,
Yeah.
but, the majority of the world are not celebrities, and yet they're going through things. And one of the things that I tell people is you have no idea what the person in front of you is going through, whether it's someone you're working with or a store clerk you're buying from, or just someone you pass in the street. Give other people grace, because you don't know what they're going to. And one little thing that you do could be the push. And I remember I had a child that had liver disease, and he was passing, and he had a lot of pain and everything, but he did it all with such grace, and there was just something very special about him. And at his funeral, tons and tons of people showed up. And one of the people that showed up, and I'll put this into the perspective of, this was a child that was in a wheelchair that didn't speak. And one of the people that showed up at his funeral was basically a homeless person. And she used to sit in front of the Safeway that we shopped at. And she heard that he had passed. She heard about the funeral, however she heard about it. And she showed up for the funeral. And she came to me and she said, God bless him. I'm so grateful for him because he saved my life. I'm going, how is this? And she said, on the particular day that we came in, he was in a lot of pain, and he was kind of fidgety and kind of whining a little bit. And she had decided on that day that her life was not worth living and that she was going to commit suicide. And she said that when we came in, she looked at him and she knew that he was in distress because she had seen him coming in, for months. And she knew that he was in distress, and, she could see that he was in pain, but he looked at her and he saw her. She said, it felt like he looked right through me, and he saw me, and he saw my pain. And I looked in his eyes and I knew that I was wrong. That if this little boy was going through everything that he was going through, and he looked at me with such love and compassion, then what right did I have to complain? I'm able-bodied. She said, I'm homeless, but that's a remediable, a situation that can be remedied. It's just a situation, and I have it within my power to make changes and do something different. He doesn't have it in his power, but yet he had compassion for me. And just that simple thing. He couldn't speak to her. He couldn't get up and go over and take her hand, but he looked at her and he saw her. And just the act of acknowledging that you see someone else's pain, or even if you don't see their pain, just acknowledging that you see them, can go a long way. Because when people are in that mode that they're ready to take their lives, they feel like their life doesn't matter. And, if you can see them and acknowledge them, that tells them that they still matter. In that moment, they still matter. And that can be the difference between life and death. That 1 second that you took to respect somebody, to see someone,
Well, doctor, it's amazing you said that, because one of the things that we often look at is like people that have more than us, but we never
Mhm.
look at the people who have less. And I think
Right.
when you start looking at how many people around us in the world that are struggling, no matter what struggles you're going through, you will figure out that, that it's nothing's worth it, because you're going to look at it that way. Now, again, we're not undermining the people that made the decision and
Right.
took their lives. I mean, again, we
Right.
we, we can't do anything about that. But for those of us that are still here, and there is an opportunity to always, like, whatever hits you hard in life, and we all have faced things. I personally had my own, and I'm sure you did. And you're probably going through stuff. I'm going through stuff, and people are watching and listening right now. They're going through stuff. But know this: no matter what it is, so think about it. If it's financial, what's the worst that's going to happen? You're going to lose it all. Guess what? You can make it all. You started from
Mhm.
nothing. You can
Start
start
over.
again. Exactly.
You were not born with it.
That's right. Your health. Now, here's the thing: health is not something you can come back with. If you destroy your health, it's over, right? So take care of your health, and then the rest will take care of its own. Those are something that we say health is wealth, right? So do
Yes.
that. Focus on that, and look at how many people. I mean, look in recently there's in the Central Africa right now. There are people struggling because of drought, and there's no food and no water. I mean, people are dying right now. You look at
Right.
that, you realize, like, how fortunate you might be for whatever it is. Even if you're homeless right now, right? Believe it or not, in the US, that's still better than somewhere else, in the world, right? and
Exactly.
and I'm not saying that is a good thing, but all I'm saying is that it can get better. And always look at that next level. Like, maybe today is a bad day, but tomorrow is going to be a better day. Look at that next brighter day. Keep a positive outlook. I mean, I was talking, I mentioned yesterday, earlier, about Tyler Perry, and that's what he said in his interview, right? He said he was in a dark place, and not Tyler Perry. We all know who he is. I mean, he's a
Yeah.
superstar. I mean, we love him, right? And
Mhm.
he actually, had a dark time where he realized that this is time. He was contemplating, suicide, right? And this is his coming out now after Twitch's death, right? And he says it live, live to CNN, I think. And the idea was that he looked at, I can have a better future, and let me just go through this. And he did. Now, if he had ended it, he wouldn't see the better part of him, which is today.
Right.
And
Right.
everyone, after darkness, there is, light, right? And so always
Right.
remember that there is always, when you are at rock bottom, there is no way but up. If you keep these things, and in light, and maybe someone around you can remind you of those things, that would always be something. Always remember that there are less fortunate people. You said it. This
Right.
kid, he was helpless, and he knew he was not doing well, but yet he had hope, and he gave it to someone, right? At least his look, his eye did that. And you can see that when you see someone that is really, really not feeling good, and you realize, like, how fortunate, like, you're healthy. And if you have enough help, in the day. I mean, I had a guest a couple of weeks back, and beautiful, crazy story, a beautiful story. And one of the things he said, that there was a day where he actually was sleeping with his gun, ready to end it. And then
Yes.
then he talked to his daughter, and his daughter said, you have us to
Right.
think of. And that changed his life. Think about the people around you. Think, if it's not about you, think about, it's not always about us, right? It's about the people around
Mhm.
us. What does that mean to the others? So let's do that, right? So if you think about those things, and you can help yourself, in seeing that. I know it's tough. There's no way of us making it easy. Everybody's
Yeah.
situation is different, and we cannot
Yes.
really be in your mind, if you're entertaining this. But the idea is,
And the thing is, a lot of people will say, well, I don't have anybody to think about. I'm alone and nobody cares. But that's not the case, because as long as you're in contact with people, you may not know whose life you're affecting. I'm working with somebody right now who is working with somebody who's feels like she's very much alone. And yet she's having a major impact on his life. And he's the caretaker, but she's having a major impact on his life. The things that he's learning, the ways that he's growing, she's having a very positive effect on him. And so her life matters. It even if you don't see the positive effect that you have, each thing that we do affects the entire world. It creates a ripple, and the ripple goes around the world. And you may do something here in the United States that invariably changes the life of somebody over in Africa or in Norway, and you may never know that it happened, but it happened anyway. So your life is important, and you may not see the importance of it. You may not see the good things that are happening because of your life, but know that they're happening.
And know that you will make an impact, positive impact, no matter what, as long as you seek it and you do it, and you will change things. Your life will, be better. Always remember that. That's the rule. I mean, you have to know that. Yeah, life is made with challenges. It is part of life. So there is if you're not having challenges, expect some. But when you get to challenges, know that they will be over. How long, we don't know, but it will be over. So no, just seek that next stage, and be positive and optimistic about it, and things that way. And that can change the paradigm of how you can see life. And then you appreciate things again.
Yes.
Think about, again, those folks that are less fortunate. Don't worry about all the hype, because that's the thing. You get caught in that. Just remember, and the other thing is, what happened before. Look at you. That's the other thing. Just look at you before. You had a life. You made it to this level, but you had another life. Could be good, could be bad, but you did. And so maybe there is something that you have to look back into it. And sometimes some good, some bad, and then you have to figure out. But the idea is always, like, sometimes I always like a reset. I personally do that. Like I just kind of reset myself. Like
resets are good. Resets no matter what happened in the past, be it bad, be it good, it was good. Because even if bad things happened to us in the past, they were things that strengthened us.
Yes.
They were things that we learned from. So inevitably, they shaped us, and they made us who we are today, and prepped us for something else that's going to happen in our future. So, there is no waste. There is no failure. Everything we do has a purpose. It teaches us. It either is teaching us, or it's giving us tools that we can teach others with. So there is no failure.
Well, doctor, I think that's our cue for today's show. I think that's pretty powerful, because you're right. It's amazing when you think about it. There is no failure. It's how we see things, right? And everything is a learning experience. And when learning means positive, that you picked something, right? So that what we call failure is an actual positive thing that you just learned not to do. So it's all good, So you see that, and know that if you lived another day, your life could be, that's the 1 degree, that's the next level. Between success and not success is just one extra step, right? One extra day, one extra minute, one extra thing, right, that you do. Well, same thing here. Live one more day to do more, to achieve more, to contribute more. And things will change for you. If you think that way, your life can change as well. Again, you're not alone. That's the other thing. There's no one alone. You're right. Services all over the place. We have more hotlines that are available to your point everywhere, and people are willing to help, to do whatever it takes to assist, anyone that has any thoughts about this at any level and any age, and even parents and so on and so forth. So there is no reason for someone to feel alone. They just need to know that there is help out there, and you know what? There is. And yes, there's, I think, I forgot the number, 988 or lifelong or something, .org. There's a few agencies, and every state has their hotline as well. So there is, you're not solo. You got people out there that are waiting to help you. If you're just having challenges, and if you feel that you're at a point where you can't, any longer, seek the help, and there is someone that's going to be there for you.
And here, I like to make 2 calls to action. The first call to action is, it doesn't matter what frame of mind you are in today, right now. When this is over, go ahead and take a moment to look up that suicide hotline, the suicide prevention hotline, and stick it in your phone, because you never know what may come up that may take you to a dark place. And prevention is always better than having to deal with something afterwards. So just put it in your phone. And just because it's in your phone doesn't mean anything at all other than that you're prepared. And the other thing that I would like to ask you to think about is how you approach other people. And, since we're talking about celebrity stress in this particular episode, let's talk about how we view the people that we follow as fans. Let's try to be kind. And, even though, yes, they did sign on the job, that isn't a license for us to be mean or to be hateful, because that particular celebrity that you're picking on, as we talked about earlier in the show, you don't want to be that one email that was the breaking point, the straw that broke the camel's back. And the next thing you know, that celebrity's gone, and that you at least may have contributed to that. That's not something that you want to carry. That's not the karma that you want to create. So, as you're thinking about your celebrity that you adore, and you love their music or their whatever, give them those warm fuzzies, and remember that they do have a life. And while you want the attention, if your favorite celebrity, says, no, back off, I don't want to sign autographs, I don't want the paparazzi, don't think badly of them. They're creating boundaries for their self-protection. Give them that space. They're giving a lot to you. That entertainment that they give us helps us to cope, helps us to feel better, helps us to escape and get away. And they may not be entertainers, they may be businessmen, and we're looking at them and they're creating empires and all that we may be benefiting from. Let's be grateful for that and give them grace.
Motivating us too.
Yes. Be motivated. Don't, a lot of people, they're looking at so-and-so, well, he's not all that. Don't be that person. That's a negative energy that you're creating within yourself, and you're throwing it at him. If he's doing something fabulous, acknowledge that it's fabulous and look and see how he did it. You breaking him down doesn't lift you up. See how he did it. Surround yourself with people who are higher up than you and learn from them and grow. Focus your energy on your self-improvement rather than their self-destruction or their destruction. And if you see that they're in self-destruction mode, by all means, care enough to try and do something about it. And you may not be in a position where you actually have liberty to go to that person and say, hey, but a smile is a positive energy that goes a long way.
Smile is,
and it's free.
It's free. It's easy. I mean, it's actually, I think you use less muscle than frowning. So it's a nice little gesture, and it doesn't hurt. And again, we can listen, if you're a celebrity or any celebrity out there, doing good, doing bad, doesn't matter. They're going through controversial stuff, and we have opinions about everything. That's okay. It's just a matter of we don't have to cuss. We don't have to actually insult. We don't have to actually be brutal about it. We can, give notes. We can give comments that are valid and whatever. We can ask questions. That's all right. Yeah, right. That's fine. But again, let's do it in the same way that we expect it to be done to us. And again, that rule is so old and so effective. If we all applied, we'd be living a good life. We don't have to dish out the stuff that we don't want to be dished on us, and that's the idea. So that would be a nice little formula to use in life.
And instead of criticizing other people, why not offer a constructive criticism? If you see something that they may be doing wrong, and in your opinion, then give a scenario. Well, if you did this, then perhaps this might be the result. Give a suggestion, an idea. They don't have to take it, but at least you're putting positive energy back out there. Two negatives never make anything good. They
That's
just
right.
don't.
That's right. Well, listen, positive is powerful. And I think, with those comments, I think, there's plenty of positivity here today that, everybody that's watching, listening can help. I mean, we can all have a helping hand here to maybe prevent someone from getting into a dark space and a dark place and eventually wind up in just making that bad decision. And I mean, to them, it may not be bad, but the idea, it is a bad decision because the outcome of it is not helping them or anybody in their family or surroundings. So we can all be positive, I guess, messengers, and help people around us. So you see something, say something. Well, if you notice something, help, just do something about it. And I think we can
And
all
help
contribute.
yourself.
And help
yourself.
exactly.
Don't be afraid to self-love. Don't be afraid to self-care. And don't be afraid to reach out and say, I need love. I need help. I need protection. I need to take care of myself. You're your greatest asset. You have to invest in yourself. And investing in yourself, self-care, self-love is probably the greatest part of that.
And doctor, I know we're coming to the end. I just wanted to add one thing. And I know we talked about all the help that's available, but you mentioned something about church earlier. I think, finding your faith, no matter what it is, I think that also is going to make a difference. Because I think sometimes when we go back to God and, or I guess the power that we believe in, right? That changes the dynamics. And I think that can be a whole different turning point for everybody and anyone. And I think all religions have some sort of similarity in terms of how that applies. And therefore, and you'll find a lot of brothers and sisters in any faith to help you, cope with these things and be better, right? So again, you have it from a cultural thing, you have it from a religious end, you have it from a society end, you have a lot of help available to you. And just don't give up on yourself. Just don't think that you're alone. And I think life will be, worth living. And that's all there is.
Yes. Feed your body, feed your mind, feed your spirit. It's the holidays. Have a happy life. You deserve it.
Amen.
All right. You have been listening to Chatters That Matters. Let's talk about it. I'm Dr. Cheryl BryantBruce, MD, and this is Hisham Elamati, Hurricane H. We hope that you'll come back and join us again next week. These shows are perpetual, which means that if you happen to miss it, you can catch it again. But we do want to see you for the next episodes. We also want to interact with you. So go to our sites, by all means, share. And we really do want to hear your comments on the shows that we're sharing with you. Tell us what you like. Tell us what you want more of. Tell us whatever you want to tell us. We're happy to hear it. And if it's something interesting, we may even discuss it.
All right.
So it's the holidays. Everybody go out there, have wonderful holidays, share those smiles. By all means, be safe while you're out there. We love you. Come back and join us again. Hurricane, if I don't speak to you before the holidays, have amazing holidays.
Happy holidays to everyone. Happy holiday to you, Doctor. And this was great. And yes, just enjoy life, enjoy the family, enjoy your friends, enjoy the holidays. And, it's a joyful time. So have a good one. We'll talk soon.